Hey, welcome everybody to another episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. Today we're talking about how to master your patient retention, referrals, and revenue inside of your cash physical therapy practice. Because many of you, at the end of every single month, you're basically starting with a clean slate, asking yourself, how am I going to fill up the practice again? Because you have no retention, you have no predictability, and will people come back this next month? Because maybe you're going visit to visit versus selling packages. And once people discharge, they're just kind of disappearing, never to be heard of again. And so today we're going to talk about exactly what's working right now to retain patients longer so that we can increase the average lifetime value per patient, which means we need to spend less money on marketing and worry less about getting more patients in because more people are sticking around longer, which is ultimately the key to building a healthy, thriving business, keeping people around longer. So how do we do that ethically? How do we make sure we're delivering world-class care and treatments and maintenance programs for people to justify them wanting to come back again and again and again and again? And Ben, I know you're a killer with this, man. So you ready to dive into it?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. All right. So the main question that's we've gotten lately around how do we retain people better is how do I keep patients coming back after their pain has started to go away? So I know we do a lot of that with setting the right expectations from the very beginning when we're actually selling them into a program. But Ben, why don't you go into what's the first thing that comes to mind?
Yeah, it really starts from the beginning. And so the beginning. What I mean by that is in your reviews. So how we ask for reviews is not just like, hey, can you leave a Google review? We give them we provide links through an email after they've committed verbally and during their session that they would be open to leaving a Google review. Like, great, I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a link to both our Google and Yelp page. And then in that email, it gives them a list of 9 to 10 questions. And it's like, what has this been stopping you from doing? What have you tried? What's worked? How is your life different? What's your life look like now? What would you say somebody that's hesitant? And so people tell these long stories about their life, essentially, like this injury, how it's impacted them, where they're at now. And so in those reviews, it's a lot of the times it's mentioning performance. They're like, hey, I'm actually still working with them, even though my injury's over with. And now we're working on getting back to running for training for a 10K. Right. So you're already planting that seeds in our reviews are already planting that seeds for us to attract people that want that. Right. And so our reviews help with that. And then they reach out on that phone call. We explain to them what our 3-step process is. Yep. And this is where we start building value. This is not just something that you want to pitch at the end, but something you also want to do on the phone call because you're able to build value by stating that this is something that you offer. Yep. So we state that we have a 3-step process. Like, hey, what our first phase is getting you out of pain, right? Phase 2 is address the root issue. And then phase 3 is working on performance and making you better and stronger than where you were at when you sustained the injury, because that's how you sustain the injury in the first place. We don't want to just get back to baseline. If you want to get better, and I'm like, that's what every other clinic in the area does. It's just our phase 1. We've got phase 2, phase 3, and beyond, right? And so oh, that is awesome. Like, yeah, you can't get this elsewhere, right? So we're no longer a commodity. And because we're mentioning it, we're building value and then also planting that seed down the road for when they're done with formal plan of care. Now they're interested and they're curious and they've already kind of set that expectation that they're going to continue on with right. This past it. So, and then they come in for the evaluation and we walk them through what their journey is going to look like as well. This also prevents drop-offs. And we tell them, hey, the most dangerous place that you can be in is when you're out of pain between phase 1 and phase 2. We get people that, oh, I'm feeling great. I want to, decrease the number of sessions or stop coming altogether. And then they're back in. Like, no, you just got through phase 1. You're only 33% of the way through of what we do at ProKinetics, right? So it also decreases drop-offs by pre-framing the journey for them too.
Yeah. And that's really the key to all of it is helping people actually see how they're going to get the result and how they're going to sustain that result long term. Because the higher the level of certainty in the result, the less expensive and the easier, yes, it's ultimately going to be. And I think a big question a lot of people have in mind is is this just going to be a temporary thing? Am I going to spend all this money and then it just comes back? And so having that be a part of the actual journey where you're setting that frame where it's, hey, we're going to solve this, but if you as clinicians, you know that if they just go back to their old habits and do nothing, odds are that this injury is going to come back or something else is going to happen is pretty high. And so presenting it as just a standard piece of this whole thing that also gives your prospect the certainty that you have the process to make sure that this is permanently solved. I listened to a podcast talking about selling, programs. This is specifically for, functional medicine the other day, but, she was talking about how, the only time something seems expensive is when they don't fully understand what it is that they're getting. And I think a big question that a lot of PTs never answer is what happens after care and how am I going to keep this problem from coming back and how am I going to keep getting better? So I love how you frame it. I love that you bring it up, not just on a first phone call, but in your reviews, get people talking about it.
Yeah.
So setting that expectation from the beginning, something that I know you do that we've been teaching our clients for quite a while is, you sell a 10, 12 visit package. Mm-hmm. Sure. Patient might be out of pain within 4 to 5 sessions, but then the remaining of those sessions is really focusing on performance and prevention, which is a lot like what your maintenance program ultimately looks like. And so when they actually can finish their plan of care or their package, it's going into their maintenance program feels like a natural ascension rather than an upsell and something new because they already got to experience what it's like.
Exactly. Yep. They already got a taste of it. Right. And I like what you said too about the confidence and the proof by just simply having continuity or performance.
Right.
Whether you know it or not, the patient is getting increased confidence because you have that on the back end. Like, hey, if you have this on, if you offer this, clearly you get people results for what I'm calling about. That's getting out of pain, right, and getting back to the activities that I love, right? So we explain to them like, hey, we used to not have, this is something we started offering about 3 or 4 years ago. We had so many people that we solved their problem of pain, but like, great, there's so much more that I know that I want to be able to do with my body and things I never thought were possible. Can you help me out with this, right? So we actually created another problem for people. And this is our way of solving that problem that they initially came in for.
Right. I think there's a big mindset shift that not just PTs, but all clinicians need to get over, especially moving into this like next stage of healthcare, which, cash pay healthcare is, it's been around for a while, but it is like exploding right now in all disciplines. And I think the big thing that's PTs need to figure out if you're struggling with retention right now is moving away from a healthcare or traditional like healthcare way of thinking that's very reactive to whatever issue is at hand and focusing more on health optimization, because that's the way consumers are trending towards. Like everyone doesn't just want to come in when they're sick. They want to feel their best for as long as possible. They want to feel 10 years younger than they actually are. And that needs to come across in your marketing, in your messaging, and how you sell and how you pitch and how you design your programs. So it needs to be focused on the health optimization piece rather than just solving the what they came in for, but really selling to the why of what it is they ultimately want for themselves.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Yeah. And those are the types of people that are willing to pay out of pocket as well.
Right.
It's a win-win.
100%. So we got to stop talking to the what all the time of like, what are we going to do? Like, what's the protocol? What is the treatment that we're going to do? Because ultimately, whatever treatment, modality, protocol, whatever you're going to be doing, they can go and get absolutely anywhere. And so if you want to retain people longer, don't talk about the what. Give them certainty that you can help them get to their why they're there in the first place. Mm-hmm. And that, I think, requires talking about, once we get you there, how are we going to make sure that that is sustained long term, and making sure we talk about the maintenance and the continuity programs as a part of this, letting them know that everybody does this. We'll get you through the 10 visits, and then to make sure that we continue to improve and prevent future injuries from even happening, we're going to get you. Most people do the continuity program, but we'll talk to them when we get there.
Yep, exactly. And I like what you said about the commodity piece. I see this a little bit with shockwave therapies.
Oh yeah,
becoming very popular. And I think that's fine. You should you can offer Shockwave. It sounds like there's a lot of, I need to look more into the research, but it sounds like it's very promising and whatnot. Where I see people going wrong is offering this as a one-off solution. Like, yeah, come in for Shockwave. No, the whole part of the plan is getting you back to X, Y, and Z. During your sessions, we will implement a little bit of Shockwave therapy, but there's a lot more to it. So if you're listening to the podcast, do not sell Shockwave therapy. Sell the result and position as Shockwave as a small piece to getting back to X, Y, and Z. Do not sell it off as a one-off, because if somebody else down the street offers Shockwave for $5 cheaper, you're shit out of luck. Sell the outcome, not the therapy.
Right. And then that gives you the leeway to be able to charge what it is that you want, because we're not selling the thing because that's a commodity. We've structured it and bundled it into a transformational package that you can sell, for a much higher price. I love that. So, when you're designing your packages, don't think about what is the thing that, the problem that they have. Okay, we got to start thinking about, like, where are they and what is the end state that they ultimately want to be at? And then what are all the things that need to happen? What mindset or health coaching is required? What, advice and guidance do they need around lifestyle changes and sleep patterns, or what they're eating, for example, or what modalities and protocols need to happen in order to get this dream result to actually happen and sustained long-term. And so I think many of you need to rethink how your packages are structured and what it is that you're selling, because a lot of your patients, you're recommending a 5-visit package because in your head, you still value the ability to get people out of pain really, really quickly. And that's like where your mind ends, where the treatment ends for you. And we got to start thinking much, much bigger than that of how do we, again, as Ben said, make them better than they were when they actually came in. Start thinking of how do we sustain this improvements over the long haul, and make them healthier and better and continue to change and improve their overall their healthy lifestyle, basically. Yeah, because how many people have you met with, Ben, PTs, who wear their ability to get patients fixed in like 2 sessions as a badge of honor?
Oh, tons. And that's why we're at where we're at as a profession, honestly, is because of that mentality. We're so much more than we should be so much more than just helping people get out of pain.
Right. And that's just passed down from efficiency standards. We've been getting rewarded and praised for being able to get people in and out as quickly as humanly possible, rather than like asking yourselves, is this actually going to change their life in the way that they need?
Yeah. Why did they have to come in the first place?
Right. So when you start talking about their why and talking about the long term and getting them to shift their beliefs around, like, their lifestyle and what's actually possible for them at the age that they're at, and you can give them certainty that if they follow your program and are compliant with it, they're going to not just, be able to run again, they're going to feel like they did 10 years ago. And if we can start giving them more certainty about that and structure packages and programs around getting that specific outcome, you're going to find that people are going to be way more bought in. They're going to find your premium rates to be less expensive because they can see the whole journey and how it gives them the certainty and the guarantee that they're going to get this great outcome that they can't just go and get elsewhere. And so the more we talk and think like that, the more you're going to retain your patients, the more compliant they're going to be, and the more willing they're going to be to invest.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's been a couple PTs I've onboarded that they're like, well, what happens if I recommend a 10-pack and they're feeling good by the end of the 6th session? Like, you're actually, you don't think that they're going to benefit from another 4 sessions with you where you can help them with health. Like, I think sometimes PTs don't realize how much we actually know. And like, so you think that if they buy a 10-pack, you get them back to their goals, their original goals, and 6 visits, that another 4 hours with you would not be well spent.
Right.
You don't have any knowledge or anything else that you can help them with that you feel would be valuable in their life. Like, well, I never thought about that. So it's just like
stuck in the healthcare thinking rather than the health optimization thinking.
Exactly.
Right. That's if you're listening to this, get that down. You're selling health optimization. Now, of course, there's people that are coming in that need to fix some particular problem, but a massive percentage of we have a client that I just met with, like 30% of his revenue is coming from monthly recurring revenue from his memberships. Those are all people who value health optimization, and he's mastered the language of how to communicate that and speak to those people and get those people coming back. So health optimization is the biggest opportunity right now in healthcare, period. It's definitely, we're entering in a new era. That's exciting. And the more you lean into that, the more you're going to retain your clients and the easier sales is going to be.
Yep. We've got it really backwards in the healthcare space where we think clinical skills is the number one skill. Then it's like communication, whatever else after that. It's actually reverse. I'd actually place clinical skills as third most important. At number one, I'd put effective motivational interviewing or sales as a number one. Because if you can't get people to come in and actually spend time with you or come back, you can't help them, right? So that number one skill that people place of clinical skills doesn't mean jack shit if you can't get them to come back. So that's why I place sales and motivational interviewing as the number one. Number two is not clinical skills. It's actually being able to inflict behavioral changes and get people to understand like why they need to make this change and how to start making those changes. Because again, without that, clinical skills don't mean anything. So in my opinion, it's the sales and being able to get buy-in, motivational interviewing. Two is behavioral changes, being able to have that skill set. Then third is clinical skills, because you can have the best clinical skills, but if you don't have those first two things, they're not going to be bought in. And two, you can't inflict any changes with them because they're not making behavioral changes.
Right. I love that. I think another important thing to talk about, not just in like the language of like what it is we're actually selling and what we're leading people to adopt within their own lives, but how are we engaging and keeping patients, motivated throughout their treatment package? Maybe you sold them a 16 visit package. So you're going to be working with them for the next 3 to 4 months. How do we make sure that they are continuing to be engaged? What do you do? I know your team does a lot of like touch points and you reach out, but what's the extent of that for you?
Yeah. So the biggest lever that can be pulled with this is at the end of each session, we do what's called like a final 5 or final 10. So what most PTs do is think, oh, the most valuable thing that I can do is just give them exercise up until the final 59-minute to make sure I feel like I'm giving them value. No, it's actually taking them back to the treatment room and sitting them down and asking them a few questions, like recapping the session. All right, just recap the session. These are the 2 exercises I'm giving you. These 2 exercises are going to help you get back to X, Y, and Z because they are creating these different changes, right? By stating that, they're going to be much more likely to do those exercises at home, right? So recapping what you did during the session, why it was important, and why it's important for them to continue to do these things that we worked on at home so they start making changes and improvements until next session. Yeah. Next one is I state, this is the game plan for the next session. My game plan is X, Y, and Z. This is going to help you be able to do X, Y, and Z. Right? By doing this, so you give them a reason to come back. Like, this is why you need to come back so we can do X, Y, and Z. And then I also ask them, hey, obviously I've got my game plan, but what is the number one thing that would be most important to you for us to work on next session? Yeah. Right. And so now they're telling you what's important to them and what gets them excited. And I use that word excited. What would be the number one thing that would be most exciting for you to work on next session? People want to be excited. They want to have something to look forward to. All right, great. Next session, we're going to look at the tread of your shoes. Next session, we're going to look at that running assessment. We're going to get you on the treadmill. I guarantee if you tell them that you're going to get them on a treadmill and do a running assessment, they're going to show up for that next session. Versus if you're just like, all right, these are your exercises, I'll see you next week. Which one would you be more excited and most likely to show up for the appointment? Right. So that's the biggest thing that anybody can do. There's a lot of other things they can do, but that is the biggest needle mover, is at the end of each session doing that final 10 recap.
Yep. Giving them some actual ownership over that next session. Such a subtle but powerful like psychological hook right there. I love that. Have you ever considered sending out any like material where it's, let's say you built your package specifically for runners, like returning to running. That's your package. Have you considered putting together anything where it's like, first visit, here's a booklet, basically like on everything about like common injuries that happen, how to prevent them, and how to like reach peak performance as a runner in your late 40s or something to that effect. That explains what's going on, what the process is, and how to like reach, your peak of what you're trying to get to, or like workbooks and worksheets, not workbooks, kind of dripped out to them throughout that plan that kind of takes them along the journey that you walked them through when you first sold it to them. You
We
ever
have
thought of doing something like that?
we haven't, but it's a good idea. Just keep.
I've been seeing more and more clinics doing something like that where it's a really engaged out of clinic experience.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's a great way to keep people engaged.
Right. Yeah. Super interesting. I'm seeing it more and more in like some like remote programs, and it's getting some really positive feedback from patients. I'm wondering like how that would cross over into a physical therapy clinic. So
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, I think it could work really well. It's just more so we get such a large variety of patients that walk through our doors. It's making the booklet general enough but specific enough. That would be the balance with it.
right, because it'd have to be about the why, not the what. No one wants to read a booklet about shoulder pain.
Right.
But if you're a CrossFitter and you happen to come in with shoulder pain, well, knowing about like the other common things that happen specifically for CrossFitters and like the routines of those who are at like peak performance, that's a different story. So anyway, the other question that we got here, let's keep it rolling, is what's the best way to get more word of mouth referrals? And then we'll close it up on this one.
Yeah, by asking, simply asking.
Right? Just ask.
I don't have this great, this great tactic that nobody knows about. It's just simply asking.
Yep.
Asking anybody and everybody. And it's not like don't ask, do you know of anybody? Ask, who do you know? Right? Like everybody knows somebody that could benefit from.
Assume the referral.
Right. Assume it. So you can also get it. Another tactic that you can do is asking, hey, like you could have a certain month, be like, hey, it's coworker appreciation month. What coworker of yours do you know that needs help? What family member? So when you get, because if you ask too broadly, you have a hard time thinking like, oh, I know all these people. I can't even think of it. Versus if you're like coworker, family member, friend, they're much more likely to be able to actually think of a person when you narrow it down so they can think more concisely about the people that they know that fit that. Then once they have those people, then they can pull out who would benefit. So that's another tactic that does work well too.
Yeah, I love it. Keeping it super simple, but also helping eliminate the amount of like decision fatigue required to actually make a referral. Like narrow it down, give them smaller buckets to pick out of. I love it. Once people say like, yeah, my Uncle Tony, the guy's busted. He definitely needs your help. What's the next step that you take?
Yep. So the best way is a 3-way text. Like, awesome. Can you enter us into a 3-way text? I'll take it from here.
Yeah.
Right. So
what do you say?
That's what I prefer is a 3-way text. It's just so much easier to do that as well. So
yeah, I love it. I remember in the past we once talked about like during the first phone call, we've mentioned like referrals. Like, hey, once we get you like this outcome, would you be willing to make a referral for us? Like most patients give us a referral once we hit this. Are you willing to do that?
Yep.
Just that wasn't on the first phone call. That was during the first session.
Yeah, it was during the press that you remember that. Yeah, so it's at the end of the evaluation. That was my favorite trick. Because it was also something along those lines. It shows confidence. I said, all right, the only thing I ask in return is that when I get you back to running that 10K, that you refer another person that can use my help.
Yep.
If so, do we have an agreement? If I get you this 10K, will you refer somebody? Great. And you best know when I get somebody to that 10K, I'm asking for that. And I like to joke, like you also build up rapport with people. Like it's lighthearted. It's kind of like a joke, but I'm like, hey, just know that when I get you that 10K, I'm going to be asking for more people that can help. And they're like, yeah, if you can do that, I'm going to be singing your praise. I'm going to send so many people your way. Okay. All right. And then when that happens,
right.
Sit them down. All right.
Early. Yep.
You remember that agreement? You be singing my praises. I got you that 10K. All right. Who do you know?
Right. And it's way easier because they've thought about it. They've been warmed up to the idea of it and they earned it. Now they're on the hook. Now they got to.
Yep. People usually want to be good for their word too.
I would say that's the best thing probably that you can do. Set that expectation at the first session when they first commit to those ongoing sessions. Be great at what you do and earn it. Yeah, I love that. Any other last minute tips on getting more referrals?
Oh, you can run contests like at the front desk, have a
Yeah.
contest where they can scan a QR code and opens a three-way text. That's something that's pretty slick too. We have that so they can scan the QR code and it'll actually auto-populate the text for them, and they just have to add their friend or family member to that text.
Nice.
And it's already pre-written for them, and it makes it really easy. And you can
Yeah.
do a contest and be like, whoever gets us the most referrals, you
Yep.
qualify for $100 Amazon gift card or something like that.
I saw something that someone was did that was pretty cool. Know those like boards that they might have at like a trade show or something with a bunch of pegs, and you drop like a
Yeah.
coin in it and it like bounces down, and there's like 6 options on the bottom or something.
Yep.
They did that, but it was a bunch of different, a mix of gift cards and referral cards of varying financial value. And they didn't do it like every day, but like 1 week out of the month, every month, they'd bring that board out, and every single person that went in before they left, they got to drop it in there.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like a really fun thing. It's like, I didn't get the gift card, which is what I was going for, but I got the referral card, and it was still like a fun experience. They got it that made me like want to give it away.
Right.
Just because I told someone, like, oh, I played a fun game and got this. Like, here you go. Whether they use or not, I don't care. It's just fun to get it and to get to give it because of the experience of receiving it.
Right. Yeah, I like that too.
Right? Yeah, it's just fun. Lighthearted. All right, everybody. So retention is the absolute name of the game. If you are not retaining your patients, that means you have to spend more to acquire your patients, which further reduces profitability. So if you're not retaining your clients for at least, I would say minimum, you should be averaging probably like 7 to 8 visits per patient. Ben, I know you're crushing that, but would you say that's a healthy number right there?
Yeah, that's healthy. We're at 9. Honestly, the higher the better. Ours just continues to increase as we implement more and more continuity and get more people enrolled in that.
Right.
So yeah, to give you guys an idea, like if you're just starting out and you're like, hey, what do I need to do to get my caseload full? Usually a full caseload is about 10 visits, or sorry, to 20 patients per week. That was about my cap was 20 to 25, but let's say 20 patients is your goal. If you have somebody that averages 10 visits per plan of care, that means you're losing, because you're completing 20 visits, every person staying for 10 visits, you should be expecting 20 divided by 10 is 2. You should be expecting 2 people are going to be discontinuing every week.
Yep.
You need to find 2 new patients. If your average visit per plan of care is 5, you're completing 20 visits, 20 divided by 5 is 4. Now you need 4 patients.
Right.
New patients every single week. I promise it's much easier to retain patients for twice as long than it is to try and find double the leads, especially because your referrals and your reviews are going to be going up because you're getting better results.
Right. And it's a death spiral because you need to spend more time or money to acquire those 4 patients, but you also have a lower average patient lifetime value. So the more you need, the less you have and are able to spend to maintain profit. And so you have to retain your people. And don't get us wrong, we're not saying become a rack and crack chiropractor and just not solve patients' problems and keep them coming back. It's health optimization. Get them world-class results, find the next way that you can help them, and then help them maintain and optimize their health moving forward. Every single person around you that is not a clinician will benefit from having closer proximity to an expert clinician like yourself. That's what we're talking about here.
100%.
Cool. All right, everybody. Peace. We'll see you on the next episode of the Cash Physical Therapy Headquarters podcast. If you have questions or want to work with Ben or I, go to clinicalmarketer.com, fill out an application, and we will see